Clemson's never winning another national championship or even reaching the elite level in college football again, as long as Dabo Swinney is their head coach. I tweeted something like that out on Saturday. I got a lot of pushback. And if you are disagreeing, I don't understand why. I'm going to try to explain to you right here why if you think Clemson can have a turnaround, if you think Dabo Swinney is still good enough to return the Tigers to an elite level, you're missing the point. You are missing the boat, and I'm going to explain to you why. Okay, this is the tweet in question that got, again, a lot of blowback and a lot of disagreements on Saturday night. The tweet said this, quote, "What we are seeing with Dabo Swinney at Clemson is exactly what happened with Jimbo Fisher at Florida State. Gradual decline until the bottom just falls out. Unlike Jimbo, who grabbed a lifeline from Texas A&M, there's no school to save Dabo. The game has passed him by." End quote. A lot of Clemson fans Saturday night were in my mentions, all upset with that tweet. Let me ask you this. Where am I wrong? Where in that tweet that I just read you am I misguided, misinformed, and just flat out wrong? There is nowhere. Let me explain why. I want to start with what I said last first. The game passed him by. That is 100% a fact. College football has changed even since Dabo Swinney and Clemson won their last national title in 2018. Dabo has ignored the transfer portal and has not embraced NIL. Two of the biggest game changers right now in college football. You look at some of the highest ranked teams in college football this season, look at how and why they're doing so. You could point to transfer portal or NIL as one of the two, if not both, huge reasons why the success of Washington, Oregon, Michigan, Georgia, Ohio State, why it's happening, Texas, why it's happening this year specifically. All those schools, Florida State, can't leave them out. All those schools in one way or another have embraced the transfer portal and NIL to make their roster better. You can't really expect to field a legitimate elite roster this year in college football or in this era of college football by ignoring two of the biggest areas and two of the biggest tools to make your team better. And that's exactly what Dabo has done. Look at some of the greatest coaches of all time. Nick Saban in college football, Coach K in college basketball. They are both the same in the fact that they won multiple championships winning one certain way. But they've had a lot of success winning a certain way. Then as the game changed, what did they do? They adjusted to the game. Nick Saban, as the air raid offense and the spread offense came in, started realizing, I just can't play great defense and run the ball in order to win games. I have to have a legitimate quarterback who is dynamic in the run and the pass game in order to have success. Coach K said, I can't have 3 or 4 year, letterman playing at Duke anymore. I got to embrace the one and dones. Both changed their philosophy. Again, won multiple championships and won a whole hell of a lot of games, winning one way, saw the direction their sport was changing, adjusted to that, and have continued to win at a high level since making that adjustment. Two of the best coaches of all time in their respective sports adjusted. Dabo Swinney instead has decided, as transfer portal's taken over college football and NIL has been a big component to building your roster, he decided to dig his heels in, pretend like it's 2016 by burying his head in the sand, and then refusing to think there's any other way of having success besides the way he did it before. That's a mistake. That's led Clemson right now to being 4-4 and on the decline. The old saying is true. Adapt or die. There's a reason why it is said so often. Because it is 100% applicable in any area of life. If you don't adapt to the way the world is going, you are going to die. Dabo hasn't adapted, and the Clemson program in front of our faces is dying right now. Dying a slow death. 4-4 is not a coincidence as Dabo continues to eschew the transfer portal and NIL. It's only going to get worse. That's one of the biggest reasons why we are seeing the downfall of Clemson, and why, for me, I'm sitting here and telling you, as long as Dabo is the head coach of the Tigers, he is never winning a national title, and they are never getting back to that elite, prominent level in the sport. That's one reason. Failure to adjust. The other reason is zero accountability. And that was put on full display Monday night. Tiger calls. Dabo Swinney's radio show where he takes calls from fans. He got a call on Monday night from a fan, Tyler in Spartanburg, who asked Coach Swinney why he's getting paid. This is an unbelievable question. Respect to him for having the stones to ask it. He asked Dabo Swinney why he's making $11.5 million to go 4-4 in the season. And instead of responding to that question by saying, you know what, Tyler, great question. Look, I'm here to, do everything I can to turn around. What we've been doing this year is unacceptable. I'm here to make sure that the offensive woes that have plagued us this season don't continue. I'm here to make sure that the mistakes we have made consistently throughout the season come to a halt soon. I'm here to make sure that our guys are ready to play week in and week out. I'm going to do anything and everything I can to get this turned around because it is on me, and I'm the biggest reason why we are 4-4 and have fallen off the face of the earth. That would have been, I think, a response most coaches would have said, and a lot of fans would have rallied around. Instead, Dabo decides to turn the finger that's pointing at him around and blame the fans, the Clemson fans, as to why they are the problem for Clemson's decline, not him. This is a direct quote from Dabo on Monday night, again, responding to the fan who called and asked why he's making so much money to deliver so little wins this season. This is Dabo's response. Quote, "We won 11 games last year, and you're part of the problem." He continued. There's a long 5-minute response. I'm going to just clean it up for clarity, give you 2 quotes. That's one. The other one in that long answer was this. "Clemson has won so much, people have lost an appreciation for winning." If you're a Clemson fan who got mad at me Saturday night saying that they're never going to win another national title, never going to reach the elite level of college football, and that Dabo's tenure right now is giving me major Jimbo Fisher vibes, how can you hear what Dabo just said to a question about why the program has backslid under his watch and have faith or belief they are turning it around anytime soon? You cannot. That is delusional, and that is a loser message. You cannot sit here and say you're the reason, talking to the fans, that right now we stink, and your unrealistic expectations, you expecting championship or bust, is the reason we are 4-4. That is ludicrous. What are you doing? The fans want to win. The fans, because of your previous excellence, expect now to see greatness every single year. How is that a negative? How is that a bad thing? If you're Dabo Swinney and your fans want to see you win every year, that's on you for not delivering on their expectations. That's on you for taking a program with talent on it in a weak division and a weak conference and failing to meet expectations. It's not the fans' fault to expect a national title when you won 2 in the last decade. It is your fault for having this team be 4-4 and look lifeless. How can you truly sit here and say the fans are to blame because they got too used to winning and that 11 games is not good enough? Clemson, like Alabama, like Ohio State, like Georgia, is a national championship or bust. Some view that as pressure. Others, like Dabo, should view that as privilege. Think about how good you have to be consistently for fans legitimately to expect a national title every single year. How you're mad about that is delusional. And it's an ultimate loser move. And that is, again, the more you hear Dabo Swinney talk, the more you see how he operates his program, the more reason to believe Clemson under Dabo's watch is never going to win another national championship and never going to be back in that elite tier of college football ever again. He doesn't adjust. And now he makes excuses and turns the finger that's pointing at him around and saying, I'm not the problem. You, the fans, are the problem. That is delusional. And that is, again, the voice of a coach that has totally lost touch with reality. And that is why the more you watch Clemson, the more you hear Dabo talk, the more Jimbo Fisher vibes you get. Look at the similarities. Jimbo wins a national title. Now, Dabo's credit, he wins 2. Jimbo never really came close to winning 2. Dabo's credit, he wins 2. He's got Jimbo beat there. But look at the similarities since each of their most recent national championship victories. Jimbo in 2013, Dabo in 2018. Both, since their national championship victory, have been back in the college football playoff, have had multiple seasons of 10-win years, and have been in the mix. They've been in the mix. But both, whether it's Jimbo at Florida State, who got to a college football playoff the next year with Jameis Winston after winning the national title, and has had 10-win seasons multiple times since, even though they're winning 10 games, you never looked at Florida State since 2013 as a legitimate national title contender, as a real threat. They won 10 games, but it's, they're getting, they're kind of escaping. They're not playing great. They're not really playing a lot of great teams, and they're kind of skating by some okay teams in the ACC. Sure, they're 10-2, or 10-3, or 11-2, but it's like, how good were they? You never actually believe like this team could actually win a national title, even in the years that they won 10 or 11 games. The same is true with Clemson. Since 2018, have you ever believed Clemson was truly a national title contender? 2019, you played juggernaut LSU. I know you're in the national title game, but no one in their right mind thought LSU was losing a game that year. They were just on a different world. Fine, you ran into a world beater. 2020, you get embarrassed by an Ohio State team that Dabo called out for the lack of games they played, and then just proceeds to get embarrassed and smoked. That's on him. And as soon as Trevor Lawrence leaves, DJ Uiagalelei never had you believing that this team was anywhere close to championship level, even in years that they won double-digit games. And when DJU was blamed as to why Clemson's offense was struggling, you go to Cade Klubnik. Have you seen a big difference in the offense? Have you seen a truly big difference in Clemson's offense when it was DJ Uiagalelei running it versus now Cade Klubnik running it? I haven't seen a big difference. It's not. They've never been an elite team, even last year in 2022. They won 11 games last year. Did you at any point, though, think Clemson was like a national championship contender? There's a difference between winning 11 games and beating bad competition and actually being one of the truly elite teams in the country. That's one of those where Clemson, along with Florida State, in the last few years, benefited by being in a bad ACC, so you fatten up by beating bad teams, and your record is bloated, but you're not actually as good as your record says you are. Last year, Clemson got smoked by an up-and-down Notre Dame team. They lose to a bad South Carolina team, and they lost to Tennessee. But none of their wins had you believe like this team, even though before the South Carolina loss, the last week of the season, they were primed to make a run and get a spot in the college football playoff, they never felt elite. They never felt championship level. So even though you're still there with the win total, in terms of the style and the level of play, it's been nowhere close since 2018 to the elite level that Clemson played. And just like Florida State under Jimbo Fisher, who won 10 games multiple times since winning the national title in 2013, you never looked at Florida State since 2013 and said, that's another national title contender. That's a team that truly is one of the best teams in college football. Both fattened up and benefited from playing in a bad ACC, but both never truly had you believing that they were an elite team, even though their record would have double-digit wins. And you saw Jimbo Fisher, his last year was 7-6. Bolts the door to go to A&M. Since going to A&M, he's never had a 10-win season. Never. So he's a guy who won a national title, had kind of things start to slip a little bit, never got back to that elite level, and now since has never had a 10-win season in a few years, at least at A&M. And look at Clemson, 2018 win a national title, start to kind of fade down. Now they're 4-4, bottom's falling out, may not make a bowl game this year. Where's the belief it's turning around, or this is a one-year blip? I don't see it. And unlike Jimbo, I don't think there's a life jacket. There's no safety valve out there that's going to bail Dabo out the way A&M bailed Jimbo out from Florida State. Who's hiring Dabo Swinney right now if he was out there? Alabama? Is he going to be the heir to Nick Saban? Absolutely not. If you're Alabama, why would you want Dabo right now, who hasn't adjusted and who takes no accountability, coaching your team and taking over for the greatest college football coach we've ever seen? That's a disaster. If you're another elite program looking for a new head coach, why would you bring Dabo in? The game has passed him by, and the more he talks, the more he watches Clemson program playing, the more you realize, they're never getting back to that elite level again. And that's why, to conclude this, I go back to what I said at the beginning. You just hear the outline. That is why the lack of adjustments, the lack of accountability is exactly why Dabo Swinney is never going to win another national championship at Clemson or anywhere or elsewhere. And Clemson's never going to get back to that elite level of college football as long as Dabo Swinney is a head coach.